Hey everybody, Bill Caskey here, Caskey Live. It is 8:30 on whatever day this is. Thursday, I've got to put that down. I need to have that in front of me, don't I? Instead of going back. Anyway, I'm glad you're here with me today. We're going to talk about how to get somebody to follow your process, how to get a prospect to follow your process. It is the biggest challenge. There's a lot of big challenges, but one of the things that we find when we go into a company is A, you don't have a process, or B, you don't really use it, or I guess C is they don't follow it. People don't follow. So I'm going to talk about that today. But before we get into that, a couple things. This broadcast, obviously, and always brought to you by the $1 Million Seller. If you have not yet checked out the $1 Million Seller, it's a 12-week program. We're doing it. You can roll in anytime. It's for people who want to transform their income and really want to improve the asset leverage, how they use their assets, how they leverage their time, how they leverage their relationships. And you can find out more about that at billcaskey.com/$1 Million Seller. Also tomorrow, Friday, we will be doing a special. It might be a little bit longer than 15 minutes. I try to keep these to 15 minutes. Might be a little bit longer. I'm not sure what we're titling it yet, but it has to do with the fear of success. It has to do with the idea that we have levels of achievement that are available to us, but we are blind to. Available, but blind. That could be your title. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because I see it happen in me. I see it happen in others. And I've kind of avoided the topic because I got shut down on it 10 years ago, which is an example of fear of success. I got shut down on it years ago when someone says nobody has fear of success. We only have fear of failure. And I begged to differ and I got shot down and I kind of didn't bring it up again, but I think it's big. So tomorrow we're going to talk about that. I'd love to hear a comment from you. If you're calling in, watching from the Orient or South America or Indianapolis, love to hear from you today. Okay. So let's talk about the topic of how do you get somebody to follow your process? I think the first thing is we have to embrace this idea of process as being valuable to everybody. If I call you on the phone, and which is typically where I would call somebody, and I say to you, hey, I've heard about you, or I've read about you, or I've subscribed to your YouTube channel or whatever, I might be interested in working with you. Can you tell me what you do? And let's say you go on to say, well, here are the kind of things that we work on, and here's the kind of people that come to us. Okay, great. At some point, I'm going to say, okay, well, how does it work? How do we know whether you can help me or not? Or how do we know whether I am willing to be helped or not? Or whether I have the money to pay you to help me? And that's where the process comes in. And how many times have you been in the buyer role? You've been a buyer and you've reached out to somebody to explore whether there's any reason to go further or to buy from them, and there's no process. It's wing it. And it disappoints you because you want one. The buyer wants to be led on a journey. They don't want to be manipulated. They don't want to be harassed. They don't want to be stalked, but they want to have the pleasure of going down a path that is laid out for them by you. And so you as a seller have to figure out how to lay out the path. And so when we talk about how do you get somebody to follow our process, well, they're not going to follow something that's not there. So let's talk about some elements of this, which I think are important. Number one, I think it's, I say, don't cast pearls before swine. I don't say that. The Bible says that. But, a lot of times we will lay out our process to people who aren't good prospects. And you will go through all this work, and then at the end, you'll realize, why did I do that? These people were never going to buy. They weren't the kind of company that we work with that is all in on things like this. They were dabbing their toe in the water and not really into it and didn't give me the information. You should have stopped right there. When you're in a process and you are buttoned up about it, and it's a sales process that's beneficial for them too. If they don't want to follow it, you got to leave. You got to move. You got to move on. If you're a surgeon and the patient comes in and starts dictating to you how you're going to treat them and how you're going to fix their problem, operate on them, the surgeon would say, hey, wait a minute. Nah, that's not the way we do things here. You'd say in a nice way, maybe, maybe not. Surgeons, I think surgeons usually pretty good, bedside manner. But they wouldn't stand for that. They wouldn't tolerate that. Why do we tolerate that? Why do we tolerate a process from trying to generate a process that they follow when they're not following it? And we just say, well, okay, then I guess I'll go down your process. No, you've got to have a process that's strong. So don't cast pearls before swine. Recognize that some people are just not going to be up for it. They're not going to want to follow you no matter how good you are. And you have to detach from those. Number two, we talk a lot about scarcity and abundance here. And I know that sometimes it feels like it's just talk. It feels like it's just, well, yeah, okay, scarcity or abundance. Okay, yeah, I'll feel. And it's more than that, because we have all been brought up in a way that dictates how we see scarcity and abundance. And as I always say, it's a spectrum. It's not an on-off switch. You might have abundance in some areas of your life, scarcity mentality in others. So the goal is to move everything to the right toward the abundant category. But if you are in a mode of scarcity where every deal seems like it's the last and you've got to have it, and I know that nobody admits this. Nobody admits they're in that place. And yet when I speak to people and I coach people, almost all of you are in that place where you really need the next deal. Oh, I really need for this to happen. Really? Do you? Of course not. You don't. So I want you to move from scarcity to abundance, because if you're going to influence someone, I don't like the word get. If you're going to get somebody to follow your process, but if you're going to influence someone to choose the path that you're on, choose your path, you have to have an abundant attitude, because some people just won't follow you. And if you're in scarce mode, you're going to acquiesce to those people who don't want to follow you. So you've got to be in abundant mode, not in scarcity mode. I'd like to do a whole show on that. I think that's good. Number three way to get somebody to follow your process is you do not need them to follow your process. Get out of need. Needs are not about you. They're about them. What are their needs? Where are their issues? What are their dilemmas? What are their problems? Your needs don't matter. They don't matter. And I know needs and ego is all part of that same blob that comes at us. And it's like, well, I want to help the customer, but I really need to eat this month. I need to make numbers. And if I don't make numbers, I'm going to be in trouble. Your customer doesn't care about that. They don't care about you at all. They don't give two concerns. Almost said a dirty word. They don't care about you. Now, once you get to work with them and you become colleagues and acquaintances and friends, of course, there's going to be more care. But up front, they could care less about your quota. I'm sorry. I'm always looking at the positive in people, but they don't care about your quota. I kind of don't care about their quota. I don't care what's going on in their life. Now, if they're facing extinction or there's some trauma or drama, of course, I'm a caring human being. But they don't care about your quota, let's put it that way. And so anything that you're doing where you are attached to the process, attached to them following your process, is a red flag. So the best way to get somebody to do something is to not need them to do something. Detach. Simple. How many times have I been talking about that? Detach. All right, comment. Love to hear a comment on this one, because I know this is kind of non-traditional. Let's see. Let's move to number 5 here. Number 4, you've got to make your process easy to follow. Easy to follow. I like 3, 4, or 5 steps. If that can be done in your world, and I know if you're selling, designed machine, what was it called? Machinery design or precision machinery stuff to Boeing, and it's $1 billion sale, it's probably not going to be 3 steps. But generally, the three to 4 steps are these. There's some type of discovery, learning, education, upfront get to know each other step. Now, you can call it whatever you want. I kind of like the word discovery, but it's not just you discovering them and what they're interested in. It's them discovering you as well, what you're all about, who you are, and what your values are. So discovery or understanding, mutual understanding, whatever that step is, that's that initial step. And you know what? If you're in a long selling cycle, that step may go 2 or 3 months. There might be 2 or 3 meetings within that step. So don't think of your sales process as number of meetings, like meeting number 1, number 2, number 3. Think of them a little bit, pull focus a little bit. Say, look, we're going to have a discovery zone. Have a discovery zone here where it might be a couple of calls. You get to know our team. I get to know your team. I get to know a little bit about what you're struggling with, what you're trying to accomplish, what your destination is. Then the second stage of your process should be some sort of analysis. Maybe you go back to the smart guys and gals in your office and you take the information you gleaned in step 1 and you analyze it. You say, look, based on what they told us, here is the general path direction that I'd like to go down. So analysis, and maybe that analysis is step 2, but the prospect is not involved in that at all. Maybe it's just you and your team. Now, if you're not selling something that requires analysis, you're probably not going to put an analysis step in. So we got discovery, learning each other. We've got analysis, where once we learn those things, we've got to analyze them and come up with a solution. Step 3 is some sort of a recommendation step. It's where you've taken the analysis and you've sent it through your filters and your machinery, your machines, your throughput. And you've said, look, based on your problems, here's what we recommend. The recommendation stage has to be specific and concrete. It cannot be, well, based on what we've learned, we sent it through our analysis. Yeah, I think you should buy from us. Can't be that. It's got to be you've got to hold it up a little bit better. Got to work it out better. So it might be based on our findings and our recommendation. Our recommendation is as such. Number 1, we suggest that we go down this path. Number 2, we think there's reason to have a meeting with all of the constituents to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Step 3 is we will implement the solution. It will take us about 30 days to implement. Step 4, whatever those are. But the recommendation phase has to be something that's a little bit more buttoned up than just winging it. Hey, yeah, that's right. We looked at it and yep, you're a good client for us. You should pay us a lot of money. Got to be better than that. So step 1 is discovery. Step 2 is analysis. Step 3 is a recommendation. And recommendation, by the way, also includes the expectation of results. What results are they expecting from your work? Is it an economic result? Is it a throughput result? Is it a productivity result? If you're not sharing the anticipated or expected results, and I know people are reluctant to do this because there's a lot of things that could go right and wrong. There's a lot of loose ends. There's a lot of inputs that get you to the outputs. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, we want to pay you $100,000 to train our sales team, and we expect $50 million of top line revenue to result from the work you've done, then I would want to get into the detail a little bit. Well, how many clients is that? And how many salespeople do you have? And what's the typical sales process? How long is it? And what are some of the issues? I'd want to look at that before I said, yeah, I think we can get to 50 million. But if you feel like you can, again, this is not a promise. This is an anticipation. This is a general result that we're projecting. It's a projected result. I think it's okay to put it down there. It holds you accountable, holds them accountable. And what it does also is it forces you to say, look, if I'm going to commit to this, there's some stuff that has to happen. First 30 days, you got to have everybody at every meeting. You have to follow up on what their behavior is. I want to know if they're shooting the right thing, if they're communicating in the right way. All that stuff has to be right. If we're going to get to 50 million, we get there. We can get there. But I'm in control. This is you saying this. If you're going to get to this result, I can get you there. But man, I own you for the next year. I mean, you wouldn't say that. But you see the point there. The point is that if you're going to put down a result that they say they want, you've got to check it out first before you just agree to it. But once you agree to the result, say, yeah, we can get you there. Then you now are you have the con. You have the control. All right. The fourth step, so we got discovery, we got analysis, got recommendation. The fourth step is usually there's a step in there where we want to tweak. Something has to be tweaked or modified, or somebody else gets involved that you didn't know about. I want everybody to be involved all the way through, but sometimes someone slips through the cracks and all of a sudden the CEO says, hey, what are we doing here? Why are we spending $1 million on this getting $10 million thing? So you've got to allow for tweaks. And if they come back and say, look, we can't do all of this. Is there a way for us to do this in phases over 2 years instead of 18 months or whatever? You'll have to decide whether you are willing to do that. But I always like to say there's a tweaking phase or a modification or mods, ads and mods, what they're called in construction, additions and modifications, mods and ads and mods, mod squad. I don't know what it is. Ad squad. So that's it. If you have a simple process, and that was 4 steps. Now, it took me a while to define it, but I want you to write it down. I want you to graphically represent this process. Graphically. Either, I'm not talking about drawing a picture, but I'm talking about having it on a page, having arrows, don't get all funky with, oh, well, if you say no here, if you say yes, it's just very simple. In my $1 Million Seller program, I've got a guy who did, that's one of the first steps is build your process. And he did an awesome job. I think he did it himself. I think he went to Canva and got some interesting graphics. And man, you take one look at this graphic that he created. And if I'm a prospect, I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. I see where we're going. I see it. But if you try to explain it to somebody like I have you here in the last 15 minutes, it takes a long time and it's not clear. A picture worth 1,000 words or more. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5, be a pro. Be a pro on this. You know what? If somebody doesn't want to follow your process, I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm just not going to continue with them. Now, if they say, look, I want to negotiate this a little bit, it's going to be hard for us to have the CEO in meeting number 1, but we'll have her in meeting number 2, him in. Okay, I'm negotiable. I'm flexible. I'm not going to be a jerk about my process. But the process is there for a reason. Your sales process is designed or should be designed to begin the process, to begin the journey of helping them get what they want. Remember, this is all about them. It's all about getting them what they want. If you look at your sales process and can't honestly tell me that it's the first step in helping them get what they want, then it's not a good process. And you won't get people to follow it. People won't follow it. You'll wimp on it. They'll say, well, it's really not helping them get where they want. So I can understand why they don't want to follow it in that voice, in that serious voice. So you've got to believe in the process that it's step 1 or steps 1 through 4, 5 in helping them get what they want. It's not there to help you sell it. It's not there to help you sell it. Does it do that? Of course it does. Of course it does. But we've got to change our mindset, guys, around this. This idea that we're closing 15% of the deals we touch or 20% that we propose is just too low. It's just, you're wearing yourself out. You're burning the candle at both ends. You're doing work that doesn't matter because it's not arriving. It's not getting you or them anywhere. When the closer you have to having a buttoned up process, the more likely you are to say to someone, sorry, you don't qualify. You don't want to go down this path. So therefore I can't help you. Now, part of that is you have to really believe in the process. So I want you to maybe start there. Okay. So hopefully that's helped today. How to get somebody to follow your process. Number 1, have one. Number 2, don't care whether they follow it. Don't be in need of that. Number 3, make it simple. Think abundance, not scarcity, and be a pro. And if they don't want to follow it, you just gotta move on. Okay. Tomorrow we're doing Fear of Success. It'll probably go till 8:30 till 9. And of course it will be recorded as they all are. And I appreciate you all listening and watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.